YouTubers, Mike Martin's here with the Mike Martin's channel. Thanks for joining me and being part of the channel. Okay, guys, here's the deal. Are we going to see a correction in the Canadian housing market? Maybe. I've been calling for a correction since 2010. When I used to work in the financial sector, we were seeing projecting a crash in 2010 because because wages were already 8-9 times the average upper wage earners salary 8-9 times, so you would figure there should be a correction to get more people into the market to get a nice, easy, flowing, soothing housing market. But since 2010, I've been dead wrong. I've been dead wrong because I don't know what the government has planned. First-time homebuyers loans, then they have these historically low interest rates, tons of money laundering. You would never imagine that the Canadian government will allow hundreds of billions of dollars laundered through Canadian soil and impoverishing the Canadian proper, and not even that, tons of fentanyl being flooded in from factories that are owned by the Chinese Communist Party. So you would never imagine all of this stuff happening in a normal housing market. In a normal housing market, we should have had two corrections. We should have had a COVID correction, and we should have had a correction in 2014, because in 2014 things were really getting hot, and we should have had a correction in tail end of 2016 when Vancouver put in the foreign buyers tax, but instead it created an adverse effect where investors were skipping Vancouver and going straight to Toronto and going to Seattle, Washington, Washington State and Seattle, and that screwed up their markets too. And they're blaming it on the tech workers. Now, what's happening now? Well, home sales are going down, right? Canadian home sales fell 7.4% in May, likely to hit a record though. But here's the deal. How are there so many home sales with all these major home sales, with everyone on CERB, a lot of job losses? Ontario alone lost 94,000 small businesses. So we're in a situation like, how is this even possible? Well, it's very simple, guys. It's right here. Record flight leaving China. So a flight of capital, 43.6 billion from Hong Kong in Canada. That is in 2020. That's in 1 year. America experienced 11.4 billion in 1 year in 2020, and that already adjusted housing prices in Montana, North and South Dakota, places like that. We're seeing New Mexico, we're starting to see an uptick in pricing, and that's only 11 billion, and there's 350 million people in the States, and this is 43.6 billion coming into Canada in 1 year. Canada's housing market just can't afford to bring in so much money, right? Well, that's what's happening. So here it is. So there it is. Canadian home sales fell 80% of its markets, not just a regional slowdown. So there it is, right there. It goes down 7.4% from the previous month. And there it is. That's an important graph to take a look at right here. This 2021, there it is right there. So there it is right there. There you see it. You see it happening firsthand right there, what's happening here. Then you got this one here from, is this what I think it is? Hold on, let me see if I could get that's 2020. This is when you thought, the whole COVID thing. And then you start to see the big uptick here. And then you go back to 2021. You're seeing it grow from, obviously, the last line there. And, again, when you see houses like this is not a joke. People thought this was a joke. This is not a joke. This is actually listed for $9.8 million. And Canadian home sales fell 12.5% in April, record high. So why? Why? Well, again, in 2019, in the summer of 2019, the province in British Columbia, where I live in, had a really tough time finding first-time homebuyers. And because Canadians, upper average wage Canadians just can't get into their markets anymore. They just can't do it. So they're in a really bad position right now trying to get into their markets. So getting first-time homebuyers. So they did all kinds of incentives like first-time homebuyer loans. First-time homebuyer loans work like the States does it. First-time homebuyer loans is the government gives you a grant, buys you your first home, gets your family out of poverty, and if you live in the home for 4 years, you don't have to pay back the grant. But in Canada, it doesn't work like that in Canada because you actually have to pay back the first-time homebuyer loan grant. In Canada, where in the States, you don't have to pay it back if you live in the house for 4 years. All right, let's keep going here. It's a busy morning for me here at the shop, so we went over that. So record flight leaving, and again, it boils down to bringing in more Chinese investors, and that's what's been basically impoverishing a lot of Canadians is money. And visas have been increasing to China 500,000 per year, but opening more visa offices could help Canada compete for Chinese workers, students, and lucrative tourist business. So this is a big issue because they fast-tracked them on they fast track them on citizenship immediately. And then birth tourism has been a major issue here in Canada, where our birth is kind of like flatlined. There's more Canadians dying than being born. So our birth numbers are kind of skewed because of the birth tourism and people having babies here and getting instant citizenship in Canada. It depends where you're from, though. If you're from Europe, parts of Europe, they'll throw you out if you have a kid here. Like, you have to be very careful listening to what I'm saying because you got to look into the background of it. So you're probably wondering, well, Mike, what are you talking about? I went to Canada immigration, blah, 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 stats. There's no 500,000. Yeah, there is. The problem is they try to use that for refugees and other countries to kind of lie about. If you guys believe anything that's being brought out by government agencies, then you really need to really recheck or rethink what you're seeing or what is going on, because this has been a big joke. Now, do you guys honestly think there's going to be a correction? I'm going to be really honest. There needs to be some sort of a correction, because Canadians now, 2-3 generations from now, can never get into their own markets if it keeps going at this. I think they'll never. Canadians will be always never the only culture that can afford housing in their own country. Is you see, the States, you got tons of cities, right? In the state of Texas, you have more cities in the state of Texas than you do in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia put together. So you have a lot of room to move around in America, and Amerifornia is coming. So don't you worry about that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are we going to see a correction this time? There should be. There should have been one in 2010 after the Olympics. There should have been, because already people were bought out of their markets. There should have been one in 2014, but there wasn't. There should have been one in 2016 when Vancouver introduced the foreign buyers tax. And then what that did, people in a frantic pace are leaving Vancouver and buying in Toronto and in Seattle. And that screwed up both markets completely. And then there should have been a correction in COVID in 2020 with all the job losses and the business closures. There should have been some sort of correction in the housing market, but there never was. And I've been wrong for 11 years now. I've been wrong, dead wrong, because the numbers don't add up mathematically for the average to upper wage earners. It just doesn't make any sense. Now it's 23 to 25 times 23 to 25 years you need to save to own a little house to raise a family. And that's why it's pushing down Canadians' birth rate. So Canadians are very heavily dependent on money laundering and through casinos and whatnot. Our money laundering task force in Canada was dismantled in the summer of 2019. And that was a stab to the heart for Canadians. And I don't know what's going to happen anymore in Canada, you know what I'm saying? Canada seems to be the only country in some sort of pandemic. I've been watching the Euro Cup. Stadiums are full to capacity. I was watching the Vegas and Montreal game. The stadium was full to capacity. I'm not sure what's happening. We know what's happening, but I just got to play the part that I'm not sure what's going on here. What is Facebook going to allow us to do next? Allow us to say? Well, we'll look forward to seeing what Facebook allows us to say going forward. They allowed us to say that, I'm not getting into this on this video. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.